Hello, Arizona, and welcome to this episode of Valley of the Sun Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Jayson Bates, the lender who lives in and is a part of your community. And as I say each and every podcast, if you want to check out other podcasts or reach out to me through social media, you can do so by visiting my website at www.valleyofthesunrealestateshow.com. And from there, connect with me on any social media, call me directly, even email me. It's all right there in one convenient location. And now I also am kind of starting something a little bit new in that I'm reading some of the reviews that I've had on iTunes. And if you are listening to this on iTunes, as most of you probably are, please write a review, as it is one of the only ways that I have to help improve the show. And this week's review is by Carrie V. AZ, and she goes on to say here, Jayson helped us buy a home last summer, and I can't thank him enough. I found Jayson through this podcast. I was getting ready to purchase a home after financial setbacks several years ago. I wanted to get educated and learn as much as I could, but found other podcasts not to be informative. Jayson focuses his podcast on the AZ real estate market and is dedicated to helping educate home buyers on how to prepare themselves for home ownership. I cannot say enough great things. Thank you, Jayson. Well, thank you, Carrie VAZ, for writing that review. I really do appreciate that. And for all of you who may be first-time listeners, I am certainly very much so humbled by the fact that you chose this podcast over all the other choices that are out there. And I know there are many, but you chose this one. And I thank you for listening to this podcast. Okay, with that said, let's get right into today's topic. And I have a very special guest today, which I'm super excited about. We've been talking kind of off air a little bit about this very subject, which I think is very, very important because we are entering into, here in Arizona and across the country for that matter, spring traditionally, and this isn't early spring, it's kind of hot here in Arizona. It's like in the 90s and it's March 1st. But spring is traditionally the buying season, or the start of the buying season, if you will. I always kind of refer to it after Super Bowl as being buying season. But my guest here, and before I get into him and tell you about him, but I want to tell you about his group here. It's called the Private Clients Group of Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty. And they specialize in multi-million-dollar properties in Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, Fountain Hills, Biltmore Estates, Carefree, Cave Creek, basically anywhere that there's multi-million-dollar properties, this team is a part of. The group's power agent, and my guest here, his name is Frank Aazami. He's got an entrepreneurial business development and marketing knowledge coupled with his passion to unite both sellers and buyers from around the globe, has proven his status as one of the top producing agents in the Valley and a superb fit for the brand of Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty. With his nearly 30 years of experience and his lifelong interest in business enterprises, he sees distinct luxury markets in the Valley as well as other areas in Arizona, such as Arcadia, Biltmore, Mesa, Prescott, Flagstaff, Sedona, Paradise Valley, and North Scottsdale. His exemplary career has navigated his clients and assisted them with listing and selling some of the finest properties in Arizona. Frank Aazami, thank you for being a part of the podcast today.
Thanks for having me, Jayson. I'm a big fan of your podcast, so it's a pleasure to be on your show.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. You're a busy man, so I really do appreciate your insight into this topic. And I don't even think I mentioned the title, did I? So I need to mention the title here, the top 10 or the top tips for selling your home fast and for top dollar. And you are the expert for this. And so I'm really thankful that you are lending your expertise to this podcast.
Thank you so much. You know, the story never changes. It's always the same headlines, but again, it's always good to hear how a local expert or an expert selling homes, repeat the same topics over and again. And if you'd like to lead with it, I'd love to just answer your questions or,
Yeah, for sure. No, let's do that. So I always say, my listeners, some of you know, maybe if you don't, if you're a first-time listener, I was in the Marine Corps, so I have acronyms. The Marine Corps, military, government, is all about acronyms. And one of the acronyms for me and what I live by is the 5 Ps. And the 5 Ps are preparation prevents piss poor performance. And that can be applicable to selling your home and selling it fast and selling it for top dollar. So with that
I
being
love it.
said, yeah, it's
Love it.
great, right?
It makes sense, right? It's
It
all
totally
about,
makes sense.
yeah,
I used to
yeah.
stand at attention and they'd always, hey, find something wrong with you. You know, if you're on, you got general quarters and you got all these kind of inspections and all that kind of stuff going through in the military. We used to dare my general of our unit to actually find something wrong with me. And those 5 Ps, if you live by those 5 Ps, there's nothing they can find wrong with you. Okay, so
Absolutely.
that's my military. I'll get off my soapbox there.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so with that being said, um, we need to kind of break it down a little bit. I think before you even put it on the market, you as a home seller, you need to understand why you're selling the home. Would you agree with that there, Frank?
Oh, absolutely. So when we go for a listing appointment, that's like number one on the list. What's going on? What chapter are you looking to enter? Where are you leaving? Are you an empty nester? Are you looking to buy a second home? Sell your second home, get into a different market. We find people that maybe have a home here in the desert. Are probably they lived it for 10 years or so. Now they're ready for tropical, Hawaii second residence, or maybe they
Right.
want to go and find somewhere where it's more ski or whatever the lifestyle that they're like to roll into.
Right.
So that's a big question. So uniting people together. What's your story? How can we expedite it? How can we get you there and bring more prospects your way?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So, traditionally, you take a listing and you list it for cash or conventional, but we look at, opportunities where we can find, your match on the other side of the globe. And, we're matchmakers, really,
Right.
have them do their own due diligence and create a win-win situation. But going back to your tips to get your place ready and sell for fast and quick is, I think price, condition, location, supply and demand, those are like, the most important things. Price it correctly, make sure the condition is great so they can picture themselves in it, and, what's the location, how much supply and demand are there, what's sold, and who are you competing with? What other homes is the buyer looking at? So
Absolutely. Yeah. Do your homework, right? I mean, don't necessarily always rely on the realtor to do the homework. You drive around too and see if your neighbors are selling. Ask how much they're selling their homes for. Ask your realtor to provide, the listings in your particular area that may be comparable to your
most
home.
importantly, see their condition. Go actually see
Yeah.
it. See what their backyard, where the views are,
Right.
where their lighting is. Are you a darker home, lighter home? What are people looking for? Have they remodeled theirs? Did they put a new paint and new carpet in?
Right.
I mean, are you competitively positioned?
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about price a little bit because price is key, right? Price is almost everything, really.
Absolutely.
It seems like, anyway.
Absolutely.
Or perceived price, I guess, maybe is a better way to put it. So let's talk about price a little bit because price, typically when I talk to homeowners, not that I'm a realtor or anything like that, but they will say, hey, my house is worth this. And then we get an appraisal and it ends up being worth not that. It's worth something else. And so there's this perception about value as well that, can set that price. There are a lot of people.
So no one knows about the price better than the buyer. Buyer sets the tone for the price.
Yeah.
That's market value. So that's, what does the market, how much can the market bear, depending on what bracket you're in? And again, buyer is going to go and look at, half a dozen homes in the area or like properties. And then they're going to say, you know what, I see value and on this one more so than the other, and this is what I think the value is. Now, there are buyers that are low ballers, so, you have to educate those people and say, come on,
Right.
seriously. But yeah, I agree with you. Price is so, it's top of the list because there are areas where people are not looking over a certain price point, and we always tell people, if you price it over this, you're just not going to have enough showings. you don't show, you don't sell. So, only a local expert, and bring many maybe through, or have the person that you selected and throw a little gathering and have everybody price it, what it should be listed for and what it's going to really sell for. So,
Right.
Now you have the local guys that are selling majority of the listings in the area telling you where you should be, because even if you hire an appraiser,
Mm-hmm.
appraiser is going to call, and snoop around and talk to the local experts,
Right.
right?
Right.
We see that all the time, and that's how they come to the value, because appraisers most likely have not looked at everything that's on the market. A realtor has, and they have a live, breathing buyer in their car, and they know the reaction that buyer, puts out there or they see what the buyer's looking for.
Well, I love the fact that you said the buyer sets the tone, because it's so true. What the market will bear.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
really where it's at. It's finding, you as a seller, you got to find what the market will bear, right? Now,
Exactly.
let's talk about a strategy here when it comes to price, because I see this a lot, and we see commercials here in the Valley that really kind of tailor to this, or kind of encourage this a little bit. We buy ugly houses, or we buy any home, any condition, whatever. You get some agents that are in the Valley that will even price the home maybe 10-20% below market value to get the home sold fast, and maybe convince you that the home is sold at top dollar. And sometimes those things don't always line up. Right?
Well, you want to season, yeah. So you want to season we saw banks when they brought properties on the market.
Mm-hmm.
They said, what, for the first 10 days or 2 weeks, we're not going to entertain, any offers, because they purposely priced it below, maybe 5 to 10% below market value,
Mm-hmm.
to create urgency and create multiple showings, and then people actually outbid each other
Right.
to get the highest and best, we call it.
Right.
So highest and best. So you really didn't leave money on the table, but what you created is a lot of interest and multiple willing and able buyers to compete for that home.
Right.
So they actually, and then you came back one more round and say, hey, thank you for all your offers. We're doing one more announcement of highest and best. What is your highest and best? And that's creating almost like an auction for that property, but it's not an auction really, because and I think
Right.
if you do auctions, that could create several that I've done, like white glove auctions, created great sales. We didn't sell it way below market value. So, market value is market value, and
Mm-hmm.
and what a seller wants to get for the property, two different things. And what it costs to build it. We've
Yep.
seen people, we in the down market, people say, oh, well, but it cost me X amount. No one cared.
Right.
Or they say, oh, I have an appraisal for this much. No one cared.
Right.
It's buyer says, hey, I'm buying by comparison. This is what I think based on market, what the market can bear. That's what I'm gonna offer you. Take it or leave it.
Right.
And there are people that said, oh, I'm not gonna sell it. I'll keep it. And then like 2 weeks later, they're like, go get that offer. But that buyer already has gone. They
Right.
moved on. And so they sit for a long period of time, or a period of time, waiting for another person to come, and they may not come, and the frustration goes on. But then you chase the market. If the market is going the opposite way, you lower your price, but the market already shifted. You lower your price, the market. So when it's a
Yeah.
down market, you never catch up to the market, and it becomes a very painful process. So what we like to do is price it so your property sells within 30 to 90 days. That's what real estate should sell, no matter where the market is.
Right.
So only a local expert can help you through that, process.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, right? Because that's one of the key components to selling your home fast and for the highest price, is getting somebody who is an expert, not some part-time person, not a it's my mom and or whatever. You want an expert. Sometimes removing family from these situations is a good thing. As much as we want to take care of our family, you need to be open to what other people's opinions are to your, to the home, and having
Well,
somebody who's
someone
not a
who has
family
an
member.
experience, right?
Right.
Someone with a lot of experience of managing escrow, managing expectations, managing and forecasting, knowing what's coming ahead, and be able to, work on your best interest. And so if people see no value in that, they think, oh, just listing it on MLS. Oh, anybody can list it on MLS.
Yeah, right.
Anybody
Exactly.
can show the
Right.
property. But
Right.
then, there's going through the whole process of managing the inspections, managing if there's a loan that has to go that needs to be implemented, if there's an appraiser, working with that appraisal so the appraiser knows why and can subordinate what the offer price is, and making sure that the title is good, making sure that the HOA is good, making sure that buyer doesn't walk and doesn't lose interest. So communicating and going through that whole process is what people are paying for. And if you don't get that, if someone doesn't have it in their heart and soul, then you didn't hire the right person.
Right. Right.
Sorry,
No, exactly. There's a lot. I mean, with TRID and all the other things that we've gone through as an industry, there are a lot of changes, a ton of changes, and more changes coming down. I mean, it never stays the same here in real estate. It's always changing. So you need somebody who lives and breathes this every single day, and deciding that realtor to, making the right realtor decision is super critical, in my opinion, next to price, as to getting your home sold fast and for top dollar.
And exposure, does that person have the
Yeah.
budget to actually get you number of impressions that you deserve in the front of the right audience, or are they going to
Right.
put it on Craigslist or something like that you could do probably yourself?
Right.
So exposure in the right areas, and also, once the property sells, it won't have any recourse. No one's going to come and knock it on the door and say, "Hey, listen, I didn't get the right information," or I want out of this deal. I want lawsuits. How many people do you hear that come back and want to challenge the seller because the seller probably didn't disclose or whatever? We make sure that everything is done correctly, and so this doesn't happen. It's a full embarrassment. You could. How can you stay in business if that ever happens? Gosh.
Right. Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask the realtor, about their resume. Right. I mean, I've had conversations.
Oh, absolutely.
Be forthright. And
how many have you sold? How much dollar value
Right.
volume have you done in a year in the area?
Right.
So I mean, right now you can actually go on MLS. MLS says, okay, what's my performance? One button, agent performance. Bring that with you when you come meet with me.
That's a great tip.
Whoa,
I didn't know
really?
that. So MLS, you can go to
Sure.
MLS.com and pull that up.
Oh, MLS, your MLS or agent's MLS has a button that says My Performance. Okay, so you can get somebody's performance based on success rates, days on the market, blah 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 blah. You can get all of that.
So you can
if have
ask your
somebody that
agent,
just-
whoever you're interviewing, you can ask them to bring that with them.
Oh, all day long.
Yeah.
All day
That's a
long.
great
Why
tip.
wouldn't you?
Great tip.
Why wouldn't you? Because
Yeah.
performance, if what you've done for somebody else somewhere else is what's going to happen in your scenario. So
Right.
if somebody's like you hear of stories where somebody takes the listing, you want $2 million, let's just list it for $3 million, and it sits there for 10 years. Well,
Right.
you want to sell it in days or decades?
Right.
Right. So and that's something we don't want to do. I walk away from over the moon promises. I know in my heart we can't do it. The market can't bear, and walk away. Does it happen where somebody's going to overpay for something? All day long. It
Right.
happens all the time. If they really are in love with that property, and it's a rare property, and it's one of, and that's the price they can get it for. That's the only price they get it for. They have to make a hard decision.
Right. Right.
And do people buy cars that are 10 times more than other cars and does the same service? It gets you from point A to point B, and but it costs a lot more. they do it. They
Right.
do it, and because that's a want call. That's not a need.
Right.
So people want it, they pay for it. But generally speaking, you as an expert know what a property is going to sell for, should sell for,
Right.
and don't overpromise, underdeliver.
Amen. Can I get an amen right there? Yeah. Don't overpromise, underdeliver. I live by that rule as well. Okay, so let's move on from there because we still got more to cover here. And I want to talk about you mentioned cleanliness and appearances. Appearances do matter. So one of the first appearances or one of the first things people see is curb appeal, right? I've talked to people they can drive right up to the property and they'll say, yeah, no, move on, or they'll say, yeah, this place looks fantastic. Let's take a look inside.
That's right.
So
yeah.
Have your place maintained. If your eaves need painted, please paint them. Do the hedging and cut the grass and make sure there's no weeds. I mean, common sense stuff, right? I mean, we want to make sure that the house is presented as nice as possible. 100%.
Now, as much as you love your pets, but there may be some people that are allergic or they're scared.
Right.
Like, I kid you not. I mean, we show homes and people are like scared of a cat or a dog. And,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh my God, as soon as we sense that, we got to put the cat dog away in one room so they can walk and that could be a turnoff. They're like, well, we're not even coming in. Or they want to shorten their stay. The shorter they stay in the property, the most, likelihood of they're not interested. They're just not going to move on. They're just going to move on.
Yeah.
Odor has a lot to do with it. Maybe they
Right.
smell, they're sensitive to something that, that they're sensing there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a whole psyche when it comes to odor in a home. Some people put cookies in the oven and for open houses and do all kinds of stuff like that. And vice versa. Don't have all these Glade plugins everywhere in every single outlet.
Oh my gosh,
That's
no.
a big
I like
turnoff,
the
too.
cookie idea.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I like the scent, those little sticks. I think those are kind of good. Majority of them are mass appeal.
Right.
But yeah, those other the other ones that are plugged in, I think that's a turn off too.
Yeah, it's a turnoff. So unplug those, hide those away somewhere, and try to pick up the backyard. If you have a dog, please pick up the dog, stuff. That's
have an
never...
inspection done. Have an inspection done and fix all the things that are, and even inspection reports. Say, hey, listen, this is not for you. This is for me. I did it for myself. Anything that we discovered, we fixed.
That's a good point, Frank, because that shows the willingness for you to, hey, I'm committed to the sale, and I want to make you happy. It's kind of like you're, I don't want to say Walmart or whatever, but you're the retail, right? And the customer's coming through the door, and you're accommodating the customer. And by showing that you're willing to fix things, I think that goes a long way. I think that helps.
Absolutely, it's like selling a car and putting new tires on it.
Right.
Yeah, saying, hey, listen, I just got the brakes done and the tires are new. I mean, what does that change to that whole atmosphere? It just says, you know what? Okay, one less thing I got to worry about. And people then look at it a little closer.
Right.
You stay with it, and that's what you want. You want them to stay along and kind of like picture themselves in the place.
That's a great tip. I love that tip. Maybe even have the home inspection laying on the countertop saying, hey, this is all fixed or something, or have some kind of report saying it's all done. I mean, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, put the dishes away, put the laundry away.
Yep.
Hire a stager, that type of thing. I mean, all those little things can bring you an offer quicker for the most. For a greater offer, I should say,
now,
in the shortest amount of time. Yeah.
Staging too. Let's talk about that a little bit because not everybody can afford a stager, of course. However, you as a realtor, you see a lot of homes, you see a lot of trends, you see a lot of new things entering into the home market. The Arizona Home Show, I think, is this weekend out at Phoenix Stadium. Go visit those things, see what's trending or whatever, but allow your realtor to help you I don't know if I'm saying this right here, Frank. You may have to help me out here. I might be swimming here a little bit. But allow your realtor to help the prospective buyers to visualize themselves in your home.
Oh my God, Jason. I mean, you Google before and after.
Right.
Google just before and after pictures of homes,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, here's you have many options to consider. Okay, this kind of reminds me of my home, cluttered or whatever, and look at it. Wow,
Right.
what a difference. People love those home shows, HGTV shows
Yeah.
that shows before and after.
Right.
So, you don't really have to hire anybody, but you can. It helps because they kind of like push you along a little quicker, faster.
Right.
But, if I had to sell my home, I would bring in someone who would stage it and make sure that the smell is right, the flow is right. It all blends in. Every part of the house kind of blends into the same, palette color,
Right.
I should say. Don't change colors all over the place.
Right.
Keep it all in the same family.
Right.
And so it's easier to digest and make it accessible. The easier they can get in, majority of people don't want to give a day or two notice. They want to give you like a couple hours notice,
Right.
So be prepared. Be prepared at all times. You got it on the market, show and sell. It's like, today, I don't feel good. I got it. You know what? Plan ahead of time.
Yep.
Plan ahead of time.
Yep. Good advice. Okay, so now let's talk about the emotional side. I always say real estate, or a big part of real estate, is emotion. When people walk into a home, they fall in love with it. Love is an emotion, or they simply hate it, and hate is an emotion. So you keep your emotions in check if you're looking to sell your home. There may be a lot of sentimental value in a home. Get that. Our lives are.
Well, there's a
spent.
lot of history, but
Yeah.
you got to say, you know what? I'm done. I'm moving on. It's
Right.
like if you can't break away from the emotions, don't listen. Because I tell you what, you're gonna have willing and able buyer making an offer, and then you're gonna say, "Oh, I regret it. I should have."
Right.
There's nothing worse than I should have.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Can't fix it.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's like dive in.
And vice versa. When you get an offer on a home, don't get offended if it isn't the offer that you were initially seeking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They typically say your first offer is your best offer. I see that over and again.
Yeah.
Over and again. Unless you have something special and the market is going the opposite, and you never know. Because, people talk about market, but then, okay, you say the market in Arizona is bad, but then we're selling a ton of homes in certain neighborhoods in certain areas. Let's just say Arcadia.
Mm-hmm.
It's on fire. It's selling more price per square foot than PV. Who would have ever thought?
Right.
Because supply and demand. People want to get in there. They want to be there for whatever reason. Schools, friends, place to be, hip places to eat and dine and shop. So, so you can't really generalize unless you really look at subdivisions and streets, and you can go 6 streets over and there's not a sale down there. But then on another street, the people are waiting in line to get into those streets. So, or
Right.
neighborhoods, type of thing.
Absolutely.
So, you got to look at it. Generalizing is not good. Get the data from the source. Go to tax records and get the data from there. Look at it, pinpoint it. Like for example, west of Tatum, there are not too many sold over $3 million.
Right.
And you look at east of Tatum, that's where that's where over $3 million sales are.
Right.
So so if you're bringing a $5 million home, well, how many are we selling a year, and how long is it going to take you to sell that one, providing nothing more comes on the market?
Right.
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 Or better one comes on the market. So
Right.
people have to really, really do their do their due diligence and break it down to what they really are and what the market can really bear. Then make a decision. Do I want to sell now, or do I want to hang? Wait a little longer.
Yeah, and that perceived value is critical, and that's why you need a good realtor like yourself to help keep that perception in check.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
perception sometimes becomes reality, but only if you allow it to, and you don't get in its way, kind of deal. So there's value and there's perceived value, and those are two different things. The other thing I would mention too here, Frank, and this is where I think the real value of a realtor comes into play for getting the highest and best price for your home is, once you have the contract set, try not to deviate from that contract, right? Don't try to, well, I want to go back and change this, or I want to change the inspection period to this or that. And, just cause all this kind of disruption through the process.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to lose interest.
Right.
As soon as they feel like they're losing, and that's where a good realtor comes in. I mean,
Right.
They know, they've done this so many times. They
Right.
know the emotions from buyer and seller side. They know how to keep the balance, because what's our job? Let's define that.
Right.
Our job is deal making. If you're deal breaking, you're never going to make it.
Right.
You're not going to make it.
You're a deal maker, not a breaker. Right.
Exactly. But besides being a deal maker, what else are you supposed to do? You got to promote my place in front of the right people. Exposure, impressions in front of the people that can afford your property.
Right.
Okay. So what else are you doing? You're playing a lawyer's role, where you got to make sure these contracts are actually in check,
executable, right? I mean that they
yeah.
can, yeah, right.
Yeah. So you're not illegally pushing for something that you shouldn't be doing, because you can be breaking the laws. For example, I mean, I have people that do seller carries, right? And they say, well, I don't want to go through a foreclosure. It's an automatic chronic default, and I want to take over the house, and they just got to walk within days. Well, guess what? The state won't allow you. It's like,
right.
There's a state statute that you got to go through process. You got to give them reasonable time, and you got to go through the foreclosure process. That's it. If it was, then everybody would be doing it, right?
Right.
So so there are so many other, like you said, your Dodd-Frank Act and TRIT, and
yeah.
that comes in play. Yeah.
Right. There's a lot to it, and take your realtor's opinion into consideration on all this stuff. Don't be so steadfast in your opinion that you get blinded to other people's opinions. We mentioned that before, and I know we've given more than 10 tips throughout this process. We've given so many tips I can't even number them.
Who's counting? Who's counting?
Right? Who's counting? Exactly. So hopefully everybody got a lot of value on this. This is a big subject right now. As I said, we're entering into that sales, or when you want to list your home, the purchasing market, and certain markets are hotter than others. Certain price points are different than others, and the strategy of selling your home is going to be slightly different based on that. Who your target audience or prospective buyer might be. So keep that in mind too, and that's why it's so important to hire a professional like Frank Aazami and his team there. So
thanks, Jason. And again, we go in there to qualify, see if we have the right character. We need each other to be able to. It's got to be working together. We got to tangle well together, and we're very transparent. If we don't like, we like them to give us a feedback. We give them a feedback.
Right.
And if there's no communication, there's a miscommunication, then there's definitely going to be an issue with a sale. So communicating well with each other and meeting those expectations timely is the key to a successful transaction.
Absolutely.
That's how everyone can win.
Yep.
And also the lender that's involved. Make sure you bring a lender who's savvy, who can right off the bat identify the issues if there are any, credit issues or lack of
down payment issues, right? I mean,
down payment. Exactly.
All kinds of things. So yeah, you need a professional. And certainly I would love to earn your business if you're looking to purchase or refinance a home here in Arizona. No question about that, right? And Frank certainly would love to earn your business if you're looking to sell a property here in and around Phoenix, Arizona. So reach out to his team.
Thank you.
Frank, I apologize, but I forgot to mention your website. So I want to make sure I get that in here. And it's just your name, right?
Actually, yeah, that's my personal, but then our group has a website, which is easy to remember. It's PCG, Private Client Group, SIR, Sotheby's International Realty.com, PCGSIR.com.
Awesome. Fantastic.
So Private Client Group at, basically Sotheby's International Realty.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome. So reach out to Frank and his team. They're a great team. They're one of the best in the Valley. So reach out to them if you're looking to purchase or sell a home. They'd be happy to consult with you and go over your specific needs. Most certainly.
and
if you-
Jason, it's not really on the price. It's really not on the price. It's on relationship and, how can we help you? I mean, are we an asset or an expense? If we're an asset to you, we'd like to work for you. If we're an expense to you, save your money. Go. We encourage you to listen with somebody who's going to, do it for much less or no money at all, and there you go, save a lot of money. But so we bring a lot to the table, and we charge the same.
That's awesome. I love it. Frank.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thank you very much. I know this ran a little bit long for my normal podcast, but I think there was some really good content in there for our listeners. And
You can send me a bill. You can send me a bill for that, Jake.
might be a little expensive. Am I an asset or am I a liability? I'm just kidding.
Oh.
All right. Well, hey, thanks,
you're an asset.
Frank, for being a part of this. Don't go anywhere for me. And for everybody that's listening, if you're listening to this on iTunes, please write a review, as it is one of the only ways that I have to help improve the show. And I do try to read those on the next podcast, so please do that for me. If you're listening to this on Stitcher or any other platform, please subscribe, as I try to bring you all the relevant information that you need to know when it comes to your real estate needs right here in the Valley of the Sun, Phoenix, Arizona. Thanks for listening, and happy house hunting. Talk to you soon.